there, this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I am your host, Nina Perez, and we are here to discuss life topics to challenge and transform your thinking. Let's do this. Hey guys, this is Nina Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to discuss life topics to hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. And I have someone here who is full of energy and loves to transform thinking, and his name is Tommie Parker. And he is a lighthouse charged with authenticity, devotion, and understanding, who lives by faith through power and with love. Tommie is a mindset coach through his company, Power Up Academy, and is also the owner of Power One LLC and the nationally recognized Power One podcast, which I listen to, where he specializes in ego, identity, and alignment. And I cannot wait to get into this conversation. How are you, Tommie?
Nina, what an intro. You're such an amazing podcast host. I'm doing really great. How are you today?
I am really, really good. I'm more excited at this moment. I always try to be grateful for the moment, you know? So I'm really, really excited that you're here. And I wanted to start off by just letting our listeners know who you are. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of read the first statement to who I am in the intro, and that's that I'm a solar panel charged by authenticity, devotion, and understanding, who lives by faith through power and with love. And the reason I say that is because that is the identity that I have created based on a combination of who I am at my very best and also who I strive to be every single day. And so it is one of those things that's very important to me, right? As like human beings, when people say, what do you do? Or who are you? It's very important to me to know who I am and to know that that is more important than what I do. And so, you know, I say that, but then also, so I manage a martial arts academy here in Annapolis, Maryland, as well as I do, like you said, mindset coaching. So yeah.
Do you think that, you know, a lot of the martial arts has a lot to do with your mindset as well? Because I mean, I'm nowhere near being a martial artist, but I took karate for like almost 2 years. And I really realized that, you know, you have to have discipline, and it does something with your mindset, right? Like, do you feel like that really, you know, culminates for you?
Yeah, that's really well said. I definitely do. I mean, before I fell in love and found martial arts, there was really no discipline and structure and even confidence really that I had in my life. And so like all the beautiful thing about martial arts is really all the intangible things you get from it. And that's why, you know, I also sell the memberships at the academy that we have. And part of the reason it's so easy to sell is because I really believe in what martial arts can do for somebody. You know, I've seen not only myself, but I've seen our students like go from these shy, insecure kids to, you know, this confidence, this discipline. And so for me, it really did start to set the tone in hindsight of, you know, progressing my mindset, gaining confidence, discipline, all these amazing intangible things that are just so secondary, but also so primary to martial arts itself.
That's wonderful. I wanted to know who Tommie is, right? So, I mean, you're amazing, right? So I listen to your podcast. I love the way you interview. I love the people you have on too. Like I see you're very strategic about who you have on, and I respect that. I am too. And so I really love that. And so I wanted to like tap into the background, to your background, if you're open to that.
Absolutely.
Like, how you became who you are today. Like, why Powerful One? Like, where did that come from? You mind sharing?
Yeah. Absolutely. I would love to. It's cool to be able to get into kind of where you are today, because like, as you guys are hearing me, or if you're watching, or however you're tuning in today, you know, as this podcast is going on, you know, I speak with a lot of energy, a lot of passion. I'm just excited about life, to be honest, but it was not always that way. And so that's the journey of, you know, becoming my powerful one. And so I'd love to kind of just walk through what that journey was like for me. You know, I remember, Nina, being a kid. It was really tough for me because I was, you know, when I look back to school, I was in the not as smart classes, quote unquote, right? I definitely want to make sure that that's a a paradox thing because I was in the lower level classes and I was really just not a good student. I would get behaviorally, I'd get in trouble. I was in the detention room every Friday. So much so that I would even have my parents, if they're listening, drop me off at what they thought was baseball practice, but it was really me just going to detention. And so I was just really not a good student academically or disciplinary. And so what happened was that just built a lot of conditioning and a lot of thoughts and programming in my head that I wasn't smart. And so my whole life, I had the correlation that because I wasn't good at school, I was not smart. And so what I really thought was I was a great athlete. I really was. I was excelled in sports. And so I thought because I wasn't good at school and I was really good at sports, that was the only way I could achieve. And so throughout my whole life, I really tried to stray away from school. I would get really bad grades. I really embodied the dumb kid, to be honest with you. I really kind of took the programming that was instilled in me in school and really ran with it. I would adopt that dumb kid persona, but it was never really who I was. And so, again, my whole life, I'm really just achieving through sports because I think it's the only way that I can achieve, and really straying away from school and just such a disconnect. And so what happened with that is it created this identity that it was just athlete. Like athlete was the only thing I was good for. I felt like the only way that I could be loved or that people could appreciate me or have a sense of achievement was through sports. And so that just grew a deep divide in what I thought of myself because I never believed that I could be a person who would be having a conversation with you on a podcast or much less a person who has my own podcast. And so part of that progression for me was, my identity was athlete, and I would just try to achieve that any way I could. I mean, played college, like high school sports, played all the sports, played college sports, became an amateur Muay Thai fighter, a professional wrestler. Like I would always try to achieve this achievement. And one day, it kind of just all ended. And I was left with just a gaping like hole in myself and really forced to, at the same time going through a bad breakup, a big move and just so many changes in my life. And I really realized that I never knew who I was. I thought I was an athlete. My identity was wrapped up in this relationship that I was in. All I knew was sports. And so what really happened was I was left with a huge hole. I moved to an area where I knew nobody. I was no longer playing sports. And I really just had an identity crisis. And that process for me was really what I like to call the discovery phase of kind of finding like, who is Tommie Parker? Because until, 2 years ago, almost to the date, I really didn't know who I was. And it's just such a recent thing. And so that was when I really started the idea of powerful one, right? Like it's being powerful in who you are, understanding who you are and being powerful in what you do. And kind of the logo, if you guys are watching, it's a divide logo with a circle around it. And what that represents is me having to divide from the norm, the school systems, all these things that kind of brought this poor programming into my life, being able to divide from that and be powerful in who Tommie Parker really was and really find that. And the circle represents being able to bring that back into society to show other people that they are powerful, that they are not, what they thought they were in their programming, that they have such a stronger identity than they even know.
Wow, that's powerful. And I didn't know about that, about your logo. So that's really awesome. Now, it just means so much more. I was going to ask you about that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, tell me about the gaping hole thing, right? Because I think a lot of people are going through that. And it's, sports is a big thing for a lot of people. And I feel I'm not a sports person, but I feel bad about that because I feel like you're right. You wrap yourself up into that identity. And then if you get hurt or can't play anymore or don't get on that, big league team or whatever, you really do get lost. And that can be a very scary, scary place. Now, when I was reading your bio, I talked about faith. So were you a person who has grown up in faith, or did you find faith in the last few years as you were looking to fill that hole, or how did faith play into this?
Yeah, the great questions. And I'll touch on the first part, just briefly. I think that, part of the thing with identity, right? And now I do a lot of my mindset and identity coaching. And why I say my identity in the beginning of this podcast is because I identified as athlete for so long. And I think that so many athletes relate to the same thing. And, people who know the sports industry know that mental health is a huge, huge thing, obviously everywhere, but, especially in sports. And the reason is because you grow up your whole life only thinking you're an athlete. And all of a sudden, if that's gone from you, that's why it's a really weak identity to identify as an athlete or identify as a baseball player or a martial artist, because your identity can't be something that can go away, right? like when I say that personal contract that I have to myself, that identity statement, that is, it's going to be fluid and changing, but it is very like to the core. Like that doesn't just go away if I break my leg or if I snap my arm in a sport. And so, I think it's very important for people to understand how important it is to have a stronger identity than just athlete. And so, going into that, our other question, I mean, faith for me was something that, today is the most important thing in my life. And throughout my life, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I really strayed away from that as I got older because, how I saw the Catholic Church, I knew I wanted to believe in God and be in a relationship with God and have faith that, there's something greater at work. And so I was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And because I didn't really agree with the Catholic Church, and when I say that, I had a lot of questions, and I just wanted to know more about what I believe. I know that you're big on beliefs and what you're thinking, and so am I. And so I think it's really healthy to challenge our beliefs, because beliefs are passed down from somebody else to us. So beliefs, by the definition, are perceived as true, but there's somebody else's beliefs that they've kind of passed on to us. And so I think it's really healthy and really good to challenge those beliefs. And so what happened was, in the church, and when I was younger, I knew I wanted God in my life, and I knew I wanted to be faithful. But when I started challenging my beliefs, it was looked at, I was like, I was a bad person for questioning things. And, I think that that's something that the school systems and a lot of churches really get wrong, is they will give you the how, but not the why. I want to know the why. Why do I believe this? Answer these questions. And so there was a huge disconnect from me wanting to achieve something and from what they had to offer in the church that I was at. And so, I say that to say I ended up actually not being in my faith at all for a little while, not being spiritual, really being distant from churches, from God. I think a lot of people listening can probably relate to the fact that they maybe feel burnt by the church. And I hate to say that, but I think it's the truth that a lot of people feel that way. And so, fast forward, it wasn't really until COVID where I really started to develop in my faith. I remember just going on long walks and really questioning things like, God, why is this happening right now with COVID and all these things? And it really just turned into, I was praying, it went from me talking to myself to I was actually praying and starting to build a relationship with God. And so the biggest breakthrough for me was going from religion to relationship. And the way I explain it is this: religion for me, when I was younger, it was similar to the relationship I had with my flesh father. Like, he was military, so he was strict, he was overbearing. We butted heads a lot because I was kind of that mischievous kid. And so we didn't have a great relationship. I didn't want to bring my problems to him because it was strict, it was overbearing. The relationship wasn't there. And that's how I had seen religion for so long. There was these barriers to compassion and love and a lack of judgment. And so the way I explain it is like, if I'm a teenager and I go out and get in trouble, or if I'm any age and I go out and get in trouble, and in that moment, I know I have to make a call to my father or to a parent. What I want in that moment is for them to just show me love and compassion, not to say, why were you out drinking and driving, and why did you crash the car, and really condemning you. And I felt like I was being condemned in religion, but the opposite of that is relationship. And relationship with God is knowing that when I make that call to my father, whether it's my flesh father or whether I'm in trouble and I go to my spiritual father, knowing that the difference is all your father wants to know is that you're okay, that you're safe, that he loves you. And I'm fortunate enough to have that relationship, not only with my flesh father, but also with my spiritual father, with God. And so the biggest turnaround for me was starting to detach from religion, step into relationship. So that way I could step powerfully into religion if that was the right direction, which, it ended up being. And so faith to me is the most important thing in the world for me, but it was that difference between religion and relationship that really helped me be able to achieve real faith.
Yeah, you must be like my younger brother, and I didn't know that, or something. We have similar stories. That's amazing. Do you find that, are you still a Catholic, or do you consider yourself Catholic, or do you not like really have one religion or another, like one faith that you follow?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm definitely Christian. I'm actually an apostolic Christian, but I'm really just a non-denominational Christian.
Okay.
I believe heavily in the Bible and just, being in a relationship with God and not having Yeah, and not having too many constraints that aren't, the word of God, right? And like the experience that you get from God. So I'm a devout Christian, but I don't really identify past that. And it's taken me a little bit to really be able to step back into just Christianity. And so that's kind of where I am today, as
That's
a
amazing.
proud Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, well, me too. So good for you.
That's so great.
It's a good place, isn't it? It's a sense of
Mm.
freedom that comes with that. When you're a believer, there's a sense of freedom when you have that relationship. That's really great. So you have started then the Power One Academy, right? I mean, that sounds like all of your experiences are culminating to this point. So tell me a little bit about that, because I was reading it and it was talking about the alignments of the 5 pillars of life, right? So spiritual, mental, physical, relational, and financial. You're not playing games. You're hitting everything, right? So talk to me about Power One Academy, because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I really try to make it kind of like a holistic thing, like cover all these 5 pillars of life to make sure that you are having a fulfilled and happy life. And to do that, I believe that those 5 pillars are something that's so important. And so,
Mhm.
Powered Up Academy was really the kind of subsection of Powerful One, kind of being able to put what I experienced into a coaching platform, like the
Okay.
mindset shift that I achieved on my own, having to kind of step out of the conformity and step out of kind of the bubble that I lived in, being able to step outside of that and experience all the things that I experienced and break all the limiting beliefs and get rid of all this past programming that was holding me back. I really wanted an opportunity to share that with people. And
That's
so I
great.
created Powered Up Academy with the idea of, and I know you're big on this too, Nina, but if you can change the inner work, if you can change the thoughts, the mindset, the stuff that creates the results, you can have such a powerful alignment in those 5 pillars. And so my whole goal now is really, rewiring the mind, but also other than that, coming up with a strong identity, right? Taking inventory on the different areas of your life, like what is serving you, what is not serving you. And so,
Mm,
I've came up with this really comprehensive program that takes you essentially from where you are to where you want to be. And through that process is going into a lot of your past programming, doing that deep work about, where are your thoughts coming from? Why do you have these thoughts? And really eradicating the poor thoughts that don't serve you anymore. And so Powered Up Academy is now really just me giving back from what I've experienced and from the
great.
knowledge that I have to people to help them become the powerful ones of their life and to help them break all that limiting beliefs in the past programming and eradicate those negative thoughts so that they can step into who they are and what they do powerfully. So that way they can have the things they want to have in those 5 pillars.
Isn't that awesome? You have a good job.
It's beautiful. I count my blessings every day and it still doesn't feel like enough. It's really a beautiful thing to be able to,
Mhm.
share your experience and wisdom with people and be able to just create amazing and tremendous breakthroughs and be able to really just change the trajectory of somebody's life by changing something that is seemingly so small, right? A thought, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a
Right.
feeling. And so it's a very powerful, fulfilling feeling, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and thoughts, right? Like you said, like it seems like an insignificant or small thing, but it literally can stop your whole progress, right? Like that limiting belief can literally put such a monkey wrench in everything you want to do in life. And so I'm attacking that too, because it's time. Like we got to stop this nonsense, right? And there's so many
Absolutely.
people out there who do need voices like yours out, just telling them that you can do this. Yesterday was yesterday, today is today, so we got to focus on that. And then now you took all of that. Now, did the podcast come before or after, or
Yeah, that's a great question. The podcast came actually before. So it kind of a
oh,
funny story. What happened with the podcast is I remember, when I just touched back and I said that moment when I lost my identity at the time and I lost a relationship and I really had to discover who I was. Part of
mhm,
that process was one day my best friend, Eddie, shout out to Eddie if you're listening. I know you are because he's a great person. But
mhm.
Eddie, my buddy Eddie came into the gym I was working at the time. I was trying different jobs. I was trying these different things, trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And my buddy came into to the gym I was working and we walked over to the coffee shop. And it was the first time that I had a conversation where it wasn't base level. We were talking about deep things like, what do you want out of life? Like, who do you want to be? What do you want to have? It wasn't
Mhm.
the questions like, what dates are you going on this week? How was the football game? It was
Right.
like deeper questions that I always knew I wanted, but I didn't know that men, and I don't want to even say men, that like young adults were having at this time. And so that conversation was so powerful and so impactful for me that the next day I bought podcast equipment and I've recorded a podcast every week since about people who are having those conversations and just being powerful and who they are and what they do. So the podcast was before the coaching.
Wow. What a great example of, being inspired and doing it afraid. That's so fantastic, right? That's like one of my biggest things. I even raise my kids on that. I'm like, oh, you're afraid? Good. Go do it anyway. Just do it afraid,
That's so
And
good.
so it's so good because now I'm watching them become entrepreneurs and they're doing it afraid. And it's fantastic, right? It's like you feel like you can conquer pretty much anything when you have that kind of mindset, right? I mean, you just, you had a conversation, so you went out and bought podcast equipment. Like, who does that, Tommie?
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. Do things afraid. I mean, that's what's so cool. Part of what benefited me so much when I was younger and I had those limiting beliefs is like, I wasn't afraid to just kind of like throw myself into a situation and just try something. And kind of what I used to say and what it used to be was just kind of take aimless action. I really didn't have a lot of fears, and I had, this confidence that I started developing from martial arts. And so I would just take aimless action and see where it went and kind of learn along the way. And so I think that is one of those things that kind of served me as, I wasn't the most intelligent. I wasn't the most scholastic person my whole life. But what I did do is I would take action and I would be consistent, and the needle moves, when you are consistent and you show up and you can take action on those fears regardless, like you said, is such a powerful thing.
It is such a powerful thing. It must be very rewarding for you as well. Having this Power One Academy and being able to put this content out there. I know you also are a speaker too, right? So you also do speaking engagements. I mean, your website is very impressive. By the way. So I was on there, poking around and looking at everything you do. And you do a lot of things. I mean, tell me that, you took some things you were struggling with and you literally have turned this around, right? And so when people have this belief that they can't do it, it's like, no. I'll introduce you to Tommie. You can pretty much do anything if you put your mind to it. That's so great. Where do you want to see, Power One Academy and your podcast and all, like, when you think about it, what do you want to see coming out of this in like the next, let's say 5 years or so? Like what's the plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the plan is just to have, like you said, have a vision of where I want to go in 5 years, but understand that doesn't happen without the daily measurable, reverse engineered, non-negotiable things. And so that's, reaching out to awesome people like you to get on my podcast, or reach out to people to get on a podcast. And so really where I see it in 5 years is I want to really be, speaking on all these different platforms. I want to be speaking on my podcast with, powerful people like yourself. I want to be, hopping on awesome podcasts, having these great conversations. I want to be coaching people to, coaching people like I do that, coaching people that make, 6 and 7 figures, but they're lacking this fulfillment. And I want to be able to show people that there's so much more to life than that dollar sign. There's so much more to life than your limiting beliefs or what you do. Like the who you're being and the powerful one that you are, that you were created to be is so pure and so powerful. And so I want to just be able to carry that out on such a great scale and really with my voice. I really, I had a man of God kind of speak to me and just say, without knowing who I was, that he said, you're a communicator. He said, your passion, he said, your power is your ability to communicate and connect people and bring them together. And so I really want to do that with my podcast and just get people's voices across and get my voice across. And then also just be able to power up people. I think that's why I created Powered Up Academy, is to get people to be powered up in all these different areas of life. And so really the way I see it is I would love to have just a national powerhouse podcast. I'd love to be on big podcasts, and would really love to grow my coaching program to a point where I am just impacting so many high level people to just power up even higher and really like step into who they want to be so much more powerfully. And, all that to say, none of it to me is possible without God. And so I want to give all the glory to God. God has taken a broken, full of limiting beliefs person and who couldn't even order food at a restaurant until he was 17 years old. And he's taken me and been able to use me as a vessel to be able to communicate what people need to hear at the right time. They need to hear it for the right things to happen. And I just want to be obedient to God and be obedient to what he's going to do through me, so I can just help people power up and be the powerful one that they are.
That's so good. good. So let me ask you this. When you meet someone who knew you prior to this real Tommie, to your authentic self, do they receive it, or do you feel like some pushback a little bit about who you used to be as the athlete, right? But then who you are now, which is a strong and powerful voice. Do you get that? Do you get a little pushback on that sometimes?
That's a really good question. And I honestly don't. And the reason that I
Good.
don't is because I was fortunate enough that during this identity change, I moved, and I didn't move
Oh,
far. I
good.
moved
Yeah.
about 40 minutes from my old house, but it was a move that was deep enough where all my friends at the time were in college. And me, I was just dropping out of college. I didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted to find out who I was and what I wanted to do. And
Right.
so I really, honestly, Nina, I don't have a single friend. I have one friend before the age of 22, and I'm only 23 right now. I really had to cut off a lot of people who didn't serve the person that I wanted to become. I stopped going out. I stopped drinking. I haven't had a drink, a drink, and I'm 21, I'm 23. I haven't had a legal drink in my life. And so it's just one of those things that the person that I wanted to be wasn't the person that the old Tommie was hanging around those people. And so what happened was, maybe those people were not, receiving who Tommie was becoming. But what happened is, I think people saw that I was going to start to become this person regardless. And I had no pushback, because at a certain point, people saw that I was going to be who I wanted to be and do what I wanted to do regardless. And so I really didn't have any pushback to stepping into this new person powerfully, because one, the people weren't in my life anymore, but two, they knew that I was going to do it regardless and despite of what they thought. And that was such an amazing a power fulfillment for me.
That's so great. Tommie, I'm very proud of you, for being at your age and like standing in your truth and knowing who you are is not an easy thing. And especially in the climate that we live in today, right? So that's really impressive. Very, very impressive. I wanted to know, because you mentioned it, about a non-negotiable. Do you have, and because I actually really believe in that as well. What do you have, just an example of a couple of non-negotiables? These are my non-negotiables, and we ain't gonna play with these. What do you have?
That's so good, Nina. You're so good at being a podcast host, and
Thank
just so
you.
intentional with your questions, with your listening. And so I appreciate that. But yeah, so my non-negotiables, I have really created around those 5 pillars of life. What are my non-negotiables spiritually? What are my non-negotiables relationally, financially? All the 5 pillars, mentally, physically. And so what I've done is I've looked at that, and I've looked at my goals, and I've taken it and said, okay, what do I need to do daily to move the needle, in these 5 pillars? And so just to give you a few of my non-negotiables, I track them every single day. I have both personal and business non-negotiables that get tracked every day on my spreadsheet. And so, it's a very specific, again, non-negotiable means that you do it regardless of how you feel. One of my mentors says champions make decisions based on commitments, not based on how they feel. And so I do these non-negotiables regardless, because I know that they're important. And so, the first one that I do is I wake up and I take a cold shower. And the reason I do that is
what
because—
is that with you guys? I keep hearing this cold shower thing. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a cult of us that just, we swear by the cold showers. I mean, it's so powerful, because what it does is it's the hardest thing that I will do physically and probably mentally the whole day. And I do it first thing when I wake up. Not only is it really good for blood flow, for regenerating new blood cells, and for waking you up, but it's really the mental and physical pillar of my life, the reason that I do it. And so what happens then is I get that hardest thing done right away. So everything else is easier. I'm stacking these wins, and so, just like, making your bed, not hitting snooze in the alarm, cold shower, all of a sudden I have 3 wins. I have 3 wins, and it hasn't even been 10 minutes into the day. And so I'm just such a believer. And then, so the next thing I do is, now that I'm awake, I can powerfully be able to pray and meditate. So I will have intentional prayer time, intentional meditation time. Then I'll read the Bible. I actually will listen to it. I'll listen to a Bible app. So I'm a big fan of reading as part of a non-negotiable. So I'm strengthening all these pillars. Like right there, I've already strengthened my spirituality, my physical, my mental, my relationships is the next one. I actually will send a few love and appreciation texts to some people that are important to me in my life. So that's just a few of the non-negotiables that I have every day. I mean, there's more, there's about 10, but those are the most important ones that I do every day. And of course, I slip up sometimes, but it's the intention and the action when they line up, and you can step into that powerfully. I think it's so important to have those non-negotiables.
That's so good. So do you believe in intentions then? Because you said the word intention. Just curious.
Yeah, I do. I believe that, your intentions is what you plan to achieve that day, how you see that day going, right? Like, and so if I can line up, have a clear intention of the day, part of my meditations of visualization, if I can visualize what I want to get out of that day, and if I can have an action like a non-negotiable that lines up when intentions and actions line up perfectly, that is proper alignment, and the needle moves. As long as it's a good action and a good intention, and those two things align, there's no telling what you can be able to achieve. So I'm big into having a very clear intention on how I'm going to show up today, what I'm going to get done today, and being able to align that with the appropriate actions to be able to move the needle both personally and business and in all those pillars of my life.
That's so great. I'm actually writing right now a 10 by 10 goal book, and all of the stuff you're saying is like in it. So it's so great because I'm on the right track.
Beautiful.
So how do you redirect, right? Because there's something about intentions, right? There's things about having an intention, and there's things about having your goal and what you want that done that day. What happens when your day is not what you've intended, right? Because we get hit with some stuff, right? Life gets you like off the rails a little bit. Do you have a strategy, or do you prepare your mindset to say, if this happens, this is how I move. This is what I do to strategize. Do you work on that as well? Do you have a mental exercise for that?
That's a really good question. I would say that oftentimes that happens. Oftentimes I don't end up lining up with the intention I have for the day. But I think the biggest thing is the idea of awareness. I think that once you're aware, and once you can stop and say, okay, I'm starting to stray away from focus. I'm starting to check my phone or check, let's say focus is my intention for the day. I'm starting to stray away from that. I think it's so important to have the awareness to be able to understand that so you can change the rest of your day. I think what a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have an intention, I'll have it clearly written on my whiteboard, and I'll start to go throughout the day. And sometimes I won't notice it, but I either see it on the whiteboard or I'm conscious and aware enough to understand that, whoa, the day is now taking me where it wants to go. I'm not really focused. I'm not, whatever that intention is. And so I think it's really slowing down and really like understanding why you set that intention in the first place, and being able to understand that just because your day hasn't gone how you want, you have a whole day to redirect that intention to have the awareness to say, okay, the morning took me what it wanted to do. I responded to all these emails. I was reacting to other people's problems, but it's on my agenda to focus today. That is my intention. So I'm going to hit the pause button. Maybe I'm going to do a meditation to relax and reset. Maybe I'm going to, time block the rest of my day. I think there's all these tools you can use to really help yourself stay intentional. But ultimately, I think it's having the awareness to understand that when your intention starts to stray, what was your reason for setting that intention in the first place? And what is some powerful things you can do to get back there, whether it's meditation, journaling, what got you stressed in the first place, all these different things. But again, I really think the root of it is the awareness to why it's happening and how you're getting astray.
Right. You are really good. So, Tommie, my intention is to continue to follow your progress, because I think you're a powerhouse, and you are bringing a lot of revelation and mindset to a lot of people. And when I listen to your podcast or any of your talks or anything like that, I always get inspired. So thank you for that. Thank you for your content, and thank you for being bold enough to put it out there. I really appreciate it. I love that you serve God, because I do. And I think that's a beautiful thing, to not back down and not be afraid of that, and it's something to be, noticed and remarked. So thank you for that. And so what I want, because I intend to keep, following you and listening to you and listening to your podcast, which I have subscribed to, and I actually subscribe to your YouTube channel as well. Tell me and my audience how they can continue to support you, find you, also connect with you, right? For anything that they need, if they need to talk to you about aligning their 5 pillars and so on. So give us how we can find Tommie Parker.
Well, Nina, I really receive all that you said, and I just appreciate you for having this platform and for having people like me be able to kind of share their story and journey. So honor to you right back for allowing this platform to happen. And so, yeah, so basically, people can find me anywhere they're listening to this podcast. They can also tune into the Powerful One podcast. We also have it on YouTube, the video version. But other than that, I have my website is powerful-one.com, and you can find a lot of my stuff on there, a lot about my story, story, a lot about my services, my coaching. But I'm very active on Instagram. I post every day on Powerful One page. So you can go to @Powerful One on Instagram. You can go to @Powered Up Academy, or you can go to @Mountain Teep, which is my personal page. So I'm very active on there, so people can connect with me, shoot me a DM if you're interested in a coaching program, or you just want to talk and share some love. I'm happy to do that as well. So you can find me very much on Instagram or anywhere you're listening to this platform for my podcast.
Yay! Thank you, Tommie. Thank you. And guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. I really, really appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we're going to bring you some more amazing content. Until next time. Make sure that you visit our website at Straight Talk No Sugar Added, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes and Stitcher or anywhere you listen to your podcast, or on YouTube, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about our show, that would be awesome too. If you like this show, you might want to check out our book as well. It's Hit Me With Your Best Shot: How I Overcame a Hard-Hitting Life. I am Nina Perez, and I am here for you. If you are looking for private coaching, make sure that you email me at hello@straighttalknosugar.com. Until next time.